Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm still hanging out with Chris. I know. Be patient.
Too much time
It'll be worth it. Anyway, we're here talking with Chris. Now we're at his rig. We're going to talk about his rig a bit. And
turn my back to you a little bit.
That's right. Chris, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're right here. We're just talking double Marshall stacks, but these are 900 series dual reverb heads, double channel, obviously tubes. From the late 80s, early 90s, I have 6 different heads. These particular ones are very late 80s, early 90s. I have to look at serial numbers on the back. But anyways, they're 100-watt heads. You can switch them down to 50. And that's what I use most of the time. I have 4 other 50-watt heads and 3 100-watt heads, and I cycle them around. So yeah, you never have too many heads.
Hey Chris, how come they're sideways?
What sideways?
Your amps.
Well, the sound of these basically.
I always wanted to know that.
Yeah, a lot of people
Right
ask
on,
me that.
brother.
So
Yeah.
when you turn this cabinet up, because it's angled at this height here, the speakers end up shooting up over here. So it sounds kind of strange because you're hearing these straight on, you're hearing those straight on, and then this particular pair is kind of shooting up in the air. So it changes the focus of it, and it actually changes the sound of what we call like a proximity effect. That as you get close to it, it doesn't retain that little warmer mid bass sound. It sounds a little bit more brittle because these speakers are kind of shooting away. So anyways, that's why we put them on the side. So now these are basically shooting straight out. These are shooting straight out in the way that basically, even though it's going that way, the playing of the speakers is still at ear level and it's not shooting up there. So that it's just got a more mellow blended sound, not as bright and much fuller. And what we call the presence, as I say, it just sounds a lot better. So this is a trick that Steve Marsh uses, who plays with Deep Purple. He uses 3 of them, so basically 3 double stacks. So he would take this, put it on the outside, and you'd have 2 straight ones here, this and this. So for bigger venues, that's what he does. He puts these 2 outer cabinets on the outside, and he works with 3 amps, and I work with 2 right now because it's just too many to carry around and do whatever. So anyways, that's the secret of this. So some guys do this.
Too many amps.
Yeah, too many amps. You never know what to do with too many amps. So anyways, that's the nooks and crooks of that. That's why they're sideways. It just does make a difference in the sound. And basically, of course, you have to take the wheels off them when you lay them on the side to get in here. As you know, when we move them and do whatever, we've got to stick all the wheels on these crazy things. So these heads are sitting on what normally would be the side. But anyways, that's the rig with that. So people have asked me about that. And yeah, I do know how to set up amps. I figured just a guy your age, you know, those cabinets
I thought you were just trying to be weird or different or something, man. But
that's probably most of it. But I'm trying to justify it by saying, hey, it sounds better.
Ian's got it right.
Yeah, Ian's got it right.
Exactly
So,
it, man.
yeah, so
we all thought you were weird.
yeah, so that's it. So I do know how to set up cabinets, and that's the way I like to set them up, just because I can.
Hey, man, you do what you want to do to your stuff, right?
Salute.
Yeah. So anyway,
Salute.
double Marshall heads. Now the way that I run most of my rig is I inject the effects inserted into the amps. I don't use a bunch of effects ahead of the amp, so they're actually between what's the preamp in the head and the amplifier in the head, and the effects are injected in there as opposed to bringing them forward ahead of the preamps. And then what happens is those preamps that are preamping actually preamp a lot of the noise from your effects, and the rig becomes much noisier. Now, some guys run it that way and they do different things, but I find it smoother and more effective to inject them in. Plus, I've used rack mount studio stuff, I mean, for years and years and years, since the 80s and 90s. So I just got used to the higher quality effects and effects that I was used to. And so they just ended up being studio effects and not pedal boards, which are generally a lot lower quality. So anyways, I got used to running it that way. So this rack particularly plugs into both these amps. Now, I do have a left and a right here. They're not doing the same thing. So it does split up the sound. So basically, there's not a lot going on here. I mean, it looks like a lot going on here, but basically, you just got a split delay here just so you can kind of offset the amps a little bit. And basically, they're just set for actually a couple of delays. So rather than cycle through and put them all in one unit. I have a couple of units set to the way that I like them. So basically, I'm only working with just a couple of different delays, and being that they're in 2 different cabinets, you've got maybe 2 or 3 things, options for each one of them, but you're not really using them all at the same time. So basically, you might be delaying out of one set of amplifiers and cabinets, the other one not. It just gives you a fuller sound, and it's not all on top of each other. So it gives you a way to blend around. So I can blend from this one back to that one, and it's not the same thing, just not coming out of both amps. So there is kind of a left and a right to it. Sometimes it's dry, sometimes it's not. So basically, as I say, it looks like a lot going on, but I don't use a lot of effects. Basically, as I say, like I said, a little delay, back and forth a little bit,
Yes.
a little bit of chorus, and that's about it. So I'm really not using a lot of different type of what would be like foot pedal effects or whatever. The guitar sound is derived basically from the guitar in the amp,
Which I know.
and that's the sound of it. Like, I don't have a pedal where I try to get a distorted sound. If the sound's distorted, it's because it's the guitar and the amp that's giving me that sound, not a pedal that's giving me that sound. You tend to play a lot louder, as you guys know, because you need the gain from the guitar, but it's a little different approach. So I'm not jumping on pedals to try to make the guitar sound like
And
something.
you're not gonna go play in the neighborhood bar where.
Well,
you get
yeah,
100
like I
people.
said, yeah, we're not taking this and trying to play in front of 50 people in a small little bar. And
No.
as you know, we've been playing for years outside in concerts and bigger places.
That's
So
not gonna cut it
unfortunately,
anyway,
this
so.
is just not a rig that you take in the bars and play, and we don't do that too often. So it is what it is. That's why we have all this to counteract with what's going on over here. So that's a basic, like I said, it's a basic setup, and there's not much to see in the back. I'll cycle around with a camera a little bit later and look and see, but basically you're just looking at 4 cabinets plugging into some heads, and there's a snake cable that comes from here and injects into the back of these heads, and that's about it. So it's a little more complicated than a normal rig, but most of us big touring type of guys or whatever, we all use rigs similar to this. So this is the way that we do it. You generally have a rack, you're injecting things in. You may still put some things ahead of it, but basically you have this type of split setup. Almost everybody that's playing big venues or whatever, they all split it up to some degree or whatever. I mean, you look at Joe Bonamassa, and like you say, you look at Steve Morris, and you look at AC/DC or whoever you want to look at. They're splitting their sound up. I mean, they're playing and they're using maybe even more stacks because the venue's even that much bigger. But even in the smaller type of venues, they have some sort of a split rig, and it generally is something of about this nature, if not bigger. Because I've seen those guys play, like I said, with 6 or 8 cabinets in a small, 1,000, 2,000 person venue or whatever. So it's all scaled to about this size. So anyways, it worked good for me. So anyways, so people have asked why the cabinets are sideways and what's going on with this rack or whatever. And that's about the nooks and crooks of it. Lots of rock and roll guitars.
Yeah,
As people
that's-
know, they see me play through the years. I mean, I have an extensive guitar collection.
Okay, why don't you come on over?
Come on
on
over.
this side, yeah.
Have a look a
There
little
we
bit.
go.
And so
Pick
just a
up
few
some,
of them
tell us
that
a
are
little
here.
bit
Like I
about
said,
it.
I got tons of them. These ones just happen to be here right now. I really
Yeah,
have
right on.
all my other ones here. So as I say, you can kind of just look through them. These are all
What's this? We're looking at, what is that?
telecast.
Oh, it's a telecast. Telly, right on.
Yeah.
What year?
This one I believe is 71, 72, something
Wow,
like that.
71, 72.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And so older Les Paul. This one's a late 70s.
Well, like what, 78, 79?
Yeah, somewhere in that neck of the
Wow,
woods.
right
So, older DiMarzio's, older patent applied for tuners. I use all Grover nickel plated tuners. Most of the tuners are like late 50s and 60s tuners actually, because they were made much better, and they're nickel plated. They're not chrome. I just like the feel of the nickel. So these are what you call patent applied for. These are
Nice
actually
to nickel.
yeah, these are old tuners on most of the. I don't change them on the Fenders, but all my Gibsons basically have these older patent applied for tuners. So just something that I use. This guy's seen on a lot of our videos there. This
Yeah.
is much earlier. This one here is just back about 71, 72. This one here. So
I want to ask you about the straps, man.
yeah.
Like, what's with those? Those are pretty cool.
Well, they're all custom made. Some of them
See this?
some of
Come on
them
in here.
I've
Oh,
made,
it's-
and
but you can
some
get
of
it.
them I've had made for me.
Wow.
So and I
Cool.
got different type of badges and stuff that I collected over the years and put them on put them on here, and lots
Yeah,
of
they
contours
look
and
really
lots of
neat,
studs.
man.
They're really well made, of course, and they're nice and smooth on the back, so you can kind of sling them around. They weigh quite a bit. They weigh almost as much as a guitar.
Yeah, I
so
know.
for a little guy like me, I've got a lot of weight going on between Les Pauls and all these metal straps over here. I need somebody to hold me up pretty soon. The roadie's not going to help me with my stuff. I'll have to hang
Yeah,
on
it's
to
got
the
nothing
guitars.
to do with age, right?
Yeah,
No wonder you've
Straps
been
weigh him
shaking,
down.
bro.
Straps weigh me down. It's not my
Right.
age. So as I say, yeah, and I got a bunch more here sitting on the floor here, and you wonder why I leave them sitting on the floor, because they're worth more than most guitars. So there's a lot of money, a lot of work. And
Wow, that is just like real cool.
Yeah, so I got a few of them there and a few spares that normally are attached to guitars, but they just happen to be over here on the floor.
Yeah, I noticed them.
For you.
Cool.
So yeah. So
Yeah,
more of these.
like-
This is kind of a design that I came up with, so it's basically what you call a Chris Smith strap. They were kind of designed for me after I decided how I want them, and the guy that
Yeah,
was making
isn't
them
that cool,
for me
Yeah,
made them
yeah.
the way that I like them. So they vary in color of the
Cool.
length, but I just like the way that they're done. Of course, strap locks on all the guitars,
Yeah,
so that they
yeah,
all go.
yeah.
This is just an older, plainer one, lighter one, but like I said, I did all these studs and everything on this one myself. So some of them I've tinkered with, but these ones like this, these are all custom made. I have much more of them.
Cool. That is real cool, man.
So yeah, they're really nice. They play nice, and they work really well. Coming over to floor pedals,
Okay.
I don't use much. This is basically just my controller, and I built this very early '80s. I mean, there was MIDI just starting to come into play and computerized stuff, but that was very early on. So for me to control all this crazy stuff, I needed this foot pedal rig here that basically would switch all my stuff on and off through this cable and snake that I made, and I still maintained it through the years, because even with all this MIDI new stuff or whatever, this just works for me. So
Yeah.
basically, I've upgraded it to new loopers in here, so that some of these older effects, if they're noisy or whatever, they're completely taken out of the circuit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but instead of plugging into that particular effect and turning it on and off with the switches, the switch turns off a looper on and off, so you can leave that effect in and take it right out of
I
the circuit
see.
when you're not using it. So you can use old vintage stuff. You don't hear the noise when you're playing it, and when you don't need it, you take it out. So
Cool.
it's worked itself into the new era, because it still controls these modern loopers and switchers. So just my old switches. So there again, you just switching heads back and forth, turning on a couple of reverbs, turn on a little bit of chorus, and that's about it. On and off, and you tune. And sometimes I put a few pedals ahead of that. I might just put a little sampler there, put something. I don't play too much with that, but once in a while I like to throw something in there, but not much. So very, very simple rig. Like I said, it looks quite extensive, but basically you're just trying to control what you have in your rack that's injected into the head,
Yeah.
and a few just modern type of spins on it, if you want to call it that, but really old school stuff. So I'm not into computers and playing with a bunch of stuff. I just want to step on a switch and have it do it. It's either on or it's off. End of story. So I'm not looking for different computer banks and programming, MIDI, and doing all this stuff. Man, just turn it on, turn it off. I'm good.
Got no time for
I've
that
got no
stuff.
time for that. I'm trying to sing. I'm trying to remember what I'm doing at my age. I don't have time to remember what I got plugged in. Where'd you step on the switch
Trying
and
to
make it
remember
happen?
what he had for
That's
cereal.
it. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast in the
That's
morning.
right.
So I know if I step on that little blue light over there, it'll turn this on and I'm good to go.
Colors are really good at this age. eh?
Yeah, so everything's color coded, and that's the way that it goes. So very simple, anyways. But like I said, I've had it for
Love it.
many years, and it works well for me. And that's about the nooks and crooks of what's going on. Basically, just vintage guitars with modern technology hooked up to it, plugged straight into amps with a few modern effects or whatever, and that's about it. I mean, that's kind of the king of the attic sound. So basically, I'm not looking to play with computers or whatever. I just plug guitars and amps and go. Bigger the amp, the better for me. Just a guitar and an amp. Actually, you could take all this away and just give me a guitar and an amp, because that's the way we started out back in the old days. We didn't
That's
have
right.
all this stuff.
No, I didn't have any of that.
So this is icing on the cake, but to actually play what you're going to play, just a good guitar with a little bit of gain and plug it in. You can play blues, play jazz, play rock, just depending bring the level up as it gets heavier, or bring it down and blend yourself in. Basically just a guitar and an amp is still where we're at with most of the